No pressure, yet we can lift the egg, even boil it. And the Band-Aid plastic strip never comes loose.
Maybe you don't want to broil eggs this way, but you do want the extra protection of Band-Aid plastic strips. They take better care of little cuts and scratches. They stay put.
Yes, even in hot, soapy dishwater. Neat, flesh-colored, almost invisible. Band-Aid plastic strips with new Super Stick stick better than any other bandage. Made only by Johnson & Johnson, the most trusted name in surgical dressings. Be sure you get Band-Aid plastic strips.
Hurt finger. Band-Aid plastic bandage in color. Hurt elbow. Band-Aid bandage. It's blue. Hurt ankle. Band-Aid bandage. It's yellow. Hurt knee. Band-Aid bandage. It's red. Band-Aid stars and strips. Ooh. Band-Aid strips and spots. Charmers. No. In colors. Get some.
Look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp and listen, mister. How are you fixed for blades? Do you have plenty? How are you fixed for blades? You better check. Please make sure you have enough, 'cause a worn out blade makes shaving mighty tough. How are you fixed for blades? Better look. Gillette blue blades, I mean.
We're going to use an ordinary garden variety peach with its short, close fuzz and tender skin, and a regular regimental hairbrush with its rough, tough bristles, to prove to you that the man-sized Remington electric shaver will give you a close, comfortable shave, no matter how tender your skin, no matter how tough your beard. Look at this amazing demonstration. The Remington is so gentle that it can shave the short, close fuzz off a peach without harming its tender skin. And the Remington is so powerful that it can shave the bristles off a brush, bristles tougher than any beard. Remember the amazing demonstration of the peach and brush. For the close, comfortable shave you've always wanted, reach for the Remington electric shaver.
Pee-wee Reese has a way with Dodger rookies or Sandlot youngsters. Pee-wee, you do a lot of work with boys.
Not work, Al. I like baseball and kids. I enjoy helping teenagers start right.
Oh, that's around shaving age, and you give them pointers on personal appearance, too?
Yes, a boy has more self-respect when he's clean shaved. I tell him to use a Gillette razor, Al.
You said it, the Gillette Super Speed Razor. And today there are 3. Light for sensitive skin and most younger men. Regular for average skin and beard. Heavy for men who like the heft and feel of a heavier razor. Each is different, precisely engineered. One has the right blade edge exposure, edge angle, and weight to shave you in a breeze. Comfortable, good-looking shaves you may never have had before. And convenient, you change blades and rinse clean so. Choose your Gillette Super Speed Razor. $1.29 with Gillette Blue Blade dispenser in handy travel case.
Delivered the message. Now what?
Now let's check the second message.
Ready.
Mum, the doctor's deodorant discovery now contains M3. Got that? M3 to stop odor 24 hours a day. Remember now.
I know. For security reasons, Mum's the word. New Mum cream deodorant now with M3. Got the message?
Hey, Susie Q, what's cooking with you?
Your teeth look whiter than new.
My teeth aren't new, but my toothpaste is new Pepsodent. Get with it, kids. New package, new flavor, new formula, too, means brighter smiles for me and you.
You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent. The new formula with IMP gets teeth much whiter. You can see it cleans the stains and film away, while Irium fights tooth decay. You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent. The taste is new, so fresh and clean. That new taste really lasts, it's keen. And while it makes your smile a rave, it also makes your breath behave. So start going steady right away with Pepsodent. Get some today. You'll wonder when...
Geek to Me Radio, da 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 da. Geek to Me Radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we're joined by Emmy-nominated storyboard artist, director, writer, producer, Larry Houston, talking all about his career. We'll cover X-Men, the animated series, and more. Stand by!
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, hearing this on the Big 550 KTRS, thank you for tuning in. If you are streaming us out there in the world on parts throughout the internet, we thank you for tuning in there. And if you are hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, we appreciate your subscribing and listening. We have a lot to talk about with this guest, so we're going to dive right in. Emmy-nominated director, producer, writer, and storyboard artist, Mr. Larry Houston. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can see you and hear you. Yes, I apologize. The way we have the video set up, I don't know if you can actually see me unless you're looking at the actual feed, but we are streaming this on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Facebook, and on Instagram, I believe, as well. So everyone is seeing both of us. So thanks very much for your time today. I appreciate talking to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I don't see you. I just see myself.
Well, you're better off looking at you than you are at me, trust me. But I was going over all this stuff, and one of the things initially that kind of blew me away is I was today years old when I realized that you did the art for a lot of those He-Man mini comics and the Masters of the Universe things. Those I must have had a ton of those growing up, and it was really, I guess, when you think about my first introduction to comic books.
Yeah, I got a chance to do about 10 or 12 of the He-Man mini comic books back in the mid '80s. It was a lot of fun because I was working at Marvel Productions in the daytime, working on either Transformers or G.I. Joe or the Hulk, and at nighttime I'd go home and do the mini comic books.
So you were just always working on, and you were a fan of this stuff too. So was it ever really work for you?
No, I guess not. You know, when I first started in the before I got into animation business, I had always wanted to be a comic book artist, and I couldn't afford to go to New York. I didn't know anybody there, but you know, when Mattel came up with this invitation to do the He-Man comic book, it was like, hey, here's my chance to see if I can make it as a comic book artist. So I took the job, and it was a lot of fun. You know, they let me create a lot of stuff. They let me be creative.
Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The screen kind of froze, and I thought you paused your speech. I'm sorry. I'm taking a look at all the stuff behind you, and I'm mesmerized. You've got the Superpowers figures up there, and obviously you worked on Challenge of the Super Friends Galactic Guardians. You've got the Eagle Moss figures over there to your right-hand side, the G.I. Joe posters. Do you have, like, little souvenirs from all the different projects you've worked on?
Yeah, basically, when in the early 80s, we were doing a lot of the shows that we were working on that involved toys. They gave us free toys. And so what we would do is we would take the toys and push pin all of the toys on the wall. So if we wanted to draw a character, we could just pull it off the wall and say, okay, that's what the costume looks like. And so almost for every show, I got toys working on it. I got, what you can't see, I got Black Star, I got RoboCop, I got Secret War, Batman, all the early Turtles. Let's see, Swamp Thing, Bucky O'Hare, Darkwater, Jim Planet, Captain Planet, and yeah, stuff like that all around, and obviously X-Men stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean the toy line on just the X-Men stuff that you guys worked on was a juggernaut. No pun intended. All the different toys. I was just talking to a guy today. I still have my X-Men Blackbird and X-Men Sentinel from that Toy Biz line in the package. I keep those in the box, but a lot of my other stuff sadly got sold off here and there. But yeah, I mean, you could probably, if you think about it, if you've got all that stuff, you could probably retire and just sell all that stuff and live off the merchandise you've got there for the rest of your life.
God, I wish that was the case, man. No, all the work I was working on was all work for hire. So you know, there's no residuals coming from any of that stuff.
Oh no, because you think about all those
residuals I get, it's like nowadays, now that Marvel has purchased the X-Men, the residuals I get is that myself and the voice actors, we were touring at different conventions, and you know, meeting the fans and selling prints and stuff like that. And that was like, I guess that you could say that's kind of you know, we're getting some money from that stuff, which is great, but we're also giving back to the fans and giving them backstories and stuff to how we worked on the show, and stuff they didn't know about, you know, how hard it was to get it on the air to begin with, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's all the stuff you guys have worked on. It's great. It's great because I know you guys, especially you and Eric and Julia, were doing a lot of those conventions and everything like that. And obviously the pandemic kind of brought that to a halt. Have you been booked for any conventions in 2021 that you're planning on going to?
I've gotten emails on tentative, you know, to join to the conventions, but it's all been tentative because there's no set dates because everything's in flux. So, but I told them, yeah, I have interest. I love to do it once it feels safe and everything. So yeah, I'm up for that.
Very nice. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do those. That's one of the biggest things I missed was the conventions. I usually do about 4 or 5 a year, and I love going to them. And obviously, it's tragic, too, because when you think about all these people, I love meeting the voice actors and the people like you who work behind the scenes. And sadly, we lost Norm Spencer. It's just one of those things where it gives me even more incentive to get out and meet people like yourself who've done all these great shows. We just lost Felix Silla Friday night from Buck Rogers and Adam's Family. I was just about to see him in a convention.
I didn't know that one. Yeah.
So so that's why if you're listening right now, folks, get out to these conventions and go see people like Larry who've worked on all these shows. You talked about the residuals and everything like that. It feels like Disney Plus bringing the X-Men animated series over to their platform has really given it kind of a new life. I don't think it ever went away because it was a groundbreaking series, but that's got to be nice, especially you're on Twitter. You're seeing the constant stream of people who are just like, oh, this is my favorite series ever. I grew up with this. It turned me on to comic books. That's got to be a great feeling for you.
Yeah, it is. Eric and I, when we, in between the times when the series ended and until Disney bought it, we were kind of like out there trying to promote the show we worked on. But because Marvel didn't own the X-Men, we never got any help from them to promote the X-Men because they didn't want to. Pretty much we're out there on our own, the bastard child running around to different conventions. And when, Disney Plus finally put it on their platform, yeah, it kind of blew up. It was kind of like people rediscovered the show. We gained a whole new audience. The original ones we had and new ones, and that's been really good because now we're back in the fold, so to speak, and
No kidding.
it feels really good now to be a part of the company again.
And there's so many different places I want to start because I've got so many questions to ask you and so much to talk about. But we do have the listeners out there. If you have a question you want to ask Larry, you can text it to us at 84126. When you send us the text, just include, your name, like James from St. Louis, and then your question so I can make sure to, say who you are and give you credit for the question. We're also streaming this on YouTube, Facebook, so if you have a question, you can type it in there, and my producer, Joey B, will give me the question if we can ask it online. But one of the things I was floored by, Pride of the X-Men, I have it on VHS.
Yeah.
I love that show, and it had like some of the people who worked on G.I. Joe, because it was under the Marvel Sunbow production, if I'm not mistaken, like Michael Bell, who voiced Duke in G.I. Joe, voiced Cyclops. When you were going into that, did you have expectations that this would be it, or was it still kind of one of those feelings like, we need a little bit more behind it to get this off the ground?
Well, at the time, it was the three of us. It was Will Mineo, Rick Holberg, and myself. We were all fanboys, and we were, our boss was Stanley and Margaret Lesh. And she had always been a fan of the X-Men concept. And so she found the money to do the pilot. And so we tried to put our best foot forward to try and sell it as a concept, because back then in the 80s, you only had CBS, NBC, and ABC. That was the only places you could sell cartoon shows. So we put together a pilot. We got a really very good animation studio in Japan to do the animation. And we were trying to, get it off the ground in the 80s. But part of the problem was that, first we had a compromise, which we didn't like, which they wanted to make, Logan, Australian because of Crocodile Dundee at the time. And yeah, and we also wanted to do the Sentinels, but they wanted a cast of villains, so that's where Magneto and the rest of those characters came from. And those are like two big creative compromises. But we said, okay, let's just keep going. Let's try and put together a really good show and try and do something that we can get an audience for. And we did our best, but the three networks.
I think we froze. Do we still have you?
Yeah.
There you are. We heard three networks and then it froze. Sorry.
Oh, that there were three networks: CBS, NBC, and ABC. That was the only place you could sell a cartoon show to. And so they had no interest. They had no idea what a mutant was, what the stories are too complicated, kids won't get it, whatever. They had a lot of reasons why they wouldn't take on the show. So, it was a pilot, the best we could do at the time, and it didn't go anywhere. But, we tried to do it. We did our best, the three of us. We all kind of co-wrote it. I think Will did Act 1, Rick Holberg did Act 2, and I did Act 3. So we're like partners. We're fanboys from a long time ago, back in the 70s. So we kept that friendship and partnership going all throughout our entire Marvel production days. Yeah, so we've been partners in a lot of stuff ever since.
So when it finally comes to 1990, and we get the not the 90s, I should say, when we get the X-Men animated series, Night of the Sentinels, parts 1 and 2, had there been no network interference, would that have been what Pride of the X-Men might have looked like?
Yes, if they had not been involved, that's very close to what the Pride of the X-Men would have been closer to. It would have been the X-Men instead of Magneto and the cadre of villains that we had at the time. And Night of the Sentinels, we had to fight. There's so many things that you guys don't know about the behind the scenes, that we had to do fights to keep out the product placements and dumbing down the show. And we had to fight to get a character die in the first episode. We had many fights, and at one point we tried to agree with them politically, but not really do it.
Let them think they're winning.
They instead of asking us, they were telling us, "You will do this, you will do that." Collectively, I think it was like 6 of us. Could have been 7, but we just said, I'm paraphrasing, but we're obviously the wrong creative team that you guys want, and we're all going to quit. Get somebody new.
Wow.
So we're all were walking away from it, and they backed off. But in backing off, they pretty much thought what we were doing was wrong, and we thought we were going to be one and done. And actually, they left me alone as the director on the show. They didn't really care because they figured we were going to, crash and burn. But because of that, I knew this was my second bite at the apple. And so I knew, okay, I got to make this first season the best season I can, because they're not going to let me do this again. And so they didn't micromanage me. So I just went ahead and just did the best show I could as a fanboy and as a professional, and do the best X-Men show that I could, because I've been a fan of the X-Men since it was created back in the 60s. And so for me, I get the question a lot of times, what's your favorite episode? And for me, it's the last episode, 13 of The Final Decision, because when I did that episode, there was no guarantee of a season 2.
Yeah.
That was my last show to do the X-Men in life, I thought. So I just put in the kitchen sink. I tried to make it as dramatic and powerful as I could. I changed things in the script. I rewrote scripts. I reformatted that last episode to make it the best I could. And literally, we all had our resumes. We were going to leave. And they, at the very last minute of doing posts on the show, they said, "Don't go anywhere. You got a season 2, but you got to change that ending." Because I directed the ending where it was like Gene and Scott on a picnic basket. They're thinking about getting married. Sunset, fade out. That was the end of the series. And so we had to take it and recut it, and then we created this computer scene with them, and we created like this shadow of Sinister coming in as like a setup for season 2. But that was literally at the last minute.
Oh, wow.
Because writers and directors, all of us, we were gone. We figured that was it. That was my second shot at doing the X-Men. And it worked. You guys, at the conventions, I always thank the fans, because without the fans, that would have been it. That would have been it. Just season 1, that would have been it. But you guys hung in with the show. They liked the show. They liked what we were doing. And that's how come we got 5 years out of it.
5 seasons and a lot of great episodes that people still go to today. We're going to take our first commercial break. We're going to come back talking more with Larry Houston. If you've got a question, once again, you can tune in and send your text to 84126. You can also feel free to call the listener line. We've got that at 314-931-5877. We'll be right back talking more with Larry Houston. Please stand by.
Yeah.
How many dreams can you shape in a minute, an hour? Ask the people of Dodge.
Put in a rivet and a welded and a look alive. Wait till you see this baby drive.
What makes an engine go? Is it stock and steel and copper tubing, or infinite care and experience with men and women working together to bring metals alive?
Turn her out, Henry! Turn her out, Joe! We'll put her together and then watch her go!
Heads up, she's coming down. 2 months ago, 3 tons of unmined ore. Today, a designer's idea come to life.
Put a brand new body on a brand new frame. Tighten her up and give it a name. Call it a dot.
It's a proud name. Proud in tradition, proud in service. Swift and mighty in action.
I took me a press. I took me some steel.
Greg Weissman, the creator of Gargoyles and co-creator of Young Justice, and you're listening to Geek To Me Radio. Stay well.
Welcome back to Geek To Me Radio. Chatting this entire hour with director, writer, producer, storyboard artist Larry Houston. I want to make sure we mention our premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You can check out the website, discoverstcharles.com. It's a great time to get out if you are wanting to get some fresh air. Lots of stuff to do and see in St. Charles. You can bike ride the Katy Trail, take your dog out and play Frisbee in Frontier Park. A lot of great dining and shopping experiences. And these are all small businesses right here along South Main Street in St. Charles, folks. So if you want to get out and support small businesses, this is the way to do it. We're hopefully seeing a light at the end of the COVID tunnel, but if you're still not entirely safe, these restaurants are still offering curbside pickup. A lot of the stores are offering curbside pickup as well. And maybe you're thinking 2021, I want to get out there, I want to see something I haven't seen before, and you're from out of town, not been before, go to the website, discoverstcharles.com. You can plan your trip, lots of places to stay. There's always something to do, always something going on, festivals always coming down the pike. And as we always say, it's an historically good time. discoverstcharles.com. Chatting this hour with Larry Houston, talking all about his incredible career in animation and everything he's done. One of the things, we just had Greg Wiseman bringing us back from commercial break, obviously Spectacular Spider-Man, one of the projects he worked on with you, Larry. And I know you also worked on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I wanted to ask you about one thing in particular. You wrote the episode Swarm from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and I really think this speaks to what a fan you must be, because he was a very obscure villain. First appearance in Champions number 14, was in Spectacular Spider-Man 36 and 37, but I mean, you could have written a story probably with Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Kingpin, but you chose Swarm, which I love, and it kind of shows what a fan you were. What made you decide to go with him as the villain?
I was... at the time on Amazing Friends, that we were actually having problems trying to get the first scripts approved by the network. And when the story editor came around in the studio, he kind of mentioned it, and I asked him, could I submit an idea? He said, yeah, sure, go ahead. So when I was thinking about it, I thought about, okay, the idea of a spider versus a bee, it popped in my head. Then I thought it kind of made me think, oh yeah, Swarm. Okay, then I came up with the story of creating Swarm for the bad guy, basically. And I wrote the premise, and we shipped it off to the networks. And I was like one of the first two that got approved by the network.
Oh wow!
As like they wanted to go with it, and so they gave me the premise back. I went ahead and wrote the script, and I didn't get screen credit, but I got paid for it. But I wrote that episode, and I also storyboarded Act 1 of it, so I got to set up my own script.
Oh, nice!
And that was nice.
And you've had so many hats. We talked about all the things you do. Is it easier when you're doing more than one thing for a specific episode? Like you wrote it and you also got to storyboard it, so it makes it easier on you from, I guess, both standpoints? Or is it sometimes easier to just be the storyboard artist or just be the writer?
I do like doing both myself. So it was like I knew how to set up my own story, and I knew how I wanted to make it dramatic and have things, really set up the bad guy. So I'm really glad I got this chance to do that, because I had specific images in my mind as to what it should look like. So I'm glad I got a chance to do it that way. I wasn't the director of the episode. That was Don Jurwich. And so even though I wrote it and I directed that one, I didn't control the entire thing. At that time, I didn't get to be promoted to being director until I got on G.I. Joe, which is like a couple of years later. But it was good. I got out there, and I got a compliment from the networks. They really liked my episode. So it was a lot of encouragement for a 25-year-old.
Yeah, no doubt.
Compliments like that was great for my ego. It's like, yes, I'm on the right track. It gave me that kind of positive encouragement.
And if it makes you feel any better at all, that episode also inspired my fear of bees. So thank you. But no, it was a great episode. And like I said, I remember seeing the comic book much later on when I was older. I'm like, that's the villain from that Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which is still my go-to Spider-Man. I still hear Dan Gilvezan's voice in my head. I've talked about it on the show multiple times. Joey's probably sick of me saying it.
Yeah.
And then like we said, you got to work later on Spectacular Spider-Man, which that is probably, I'd say, one of the most popular animated series. When you get to work on several of these different incarnations, like you also worked on X-Men Evolution, is it a different kind of feeling going, because it's a different animation style, different themes that are going on, or is it kind of like just you're home again, you're working on the same characters basically at the end of the day?
And for me, what I can say is that I've been a fanboy all my life, and the fact that I'm working on a cartoon show that I read as a kid, and I get to do storyboards on it, I'm just, I'm a kid in the candy store.
Yeah.
I love what I'm working on, and it was just like, Spider-Man, X-Men Evolution, hey, this is great, man. Give me more. I just enjoy it like to death,
And you actually got your start in Filmation, I believe, was your first foray in, because you work in computers, I think, if I'm not mistaken, before you kind of launched your brand new career in animation that kind of just took off. So how was the transition going from what you were doing into, okay, now I'm working on producing these cool animated series?
It was, well, for myself, I was in high school, I met with friends, and we would draw our own comic books for our own amusement. So I did my own version of the X-Men, Avengers, that kind of stuff. When I was getting ready to go out of high school, I told my mom I wanted to go to New York and be an artist. She said, "That's nice, dear, but you need to get a real job." So I got sidetracked into fixing computers for a living. I did that for like 7 years. And near the end of the 7th year, I was getting bored. I don't know how else to describe it. I was getting bored of working on computers. And I had friends that were working at Disney and Hanna-Barbera and all the other studios, telling me, come on down, get hired, you can work. So I bit the bullet saying, okay, I think I was like 24, maybe 25 at the time. And I said, well, I got to try. I thought being 30 years old was going to be old, but I got to try it. No wife, no kids, I got to go for it. And so for me, I just, when I was working in computers, just imagine I'm running a computer, running a test. And at the same time, because it takes about an hour to run a test, I'm drawing superheroes, I'm drawing Captain America, I'm drawing whatever. My mind is somewhere else. And I knew I had to try. And the worst thing you can do is not take a chance on your dream, but take a chance on what you feel passionate about. And so I did the jump. I left computers, got hired at Filmation, and at the time I didn't know it. I was the first Black storyboard artist for Saturday Morning, but hey, I was happy to have a job.
Yeah.
I was getting paid to draw cartoons, man. It was like so much fun, and I lucked out in that I went to Filmation to get hired as a layout artist, but I took the test and failed it twice. My artwork wasn't strong enough, but he saw the comic books I did as a kid in high school with my friends, my version of the X-Men and Avengers and stuff. And the supervisor from layout introduced me to the supervisor of storyboards. And so he gave me a test. I took it home, brought it back the next day. I impressed him with first I turned it in so fast. And second, it was actually a live script everybody was working on. So he liked what I did. He actually put it into the show. And then I got hired the same day. And that's how I got into animation.
Very nice. Like I said, looking back, because look at all the different stuff you've worked on. Just we've got a list here. Art department alone: Thundar, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, G.I. Joe, Saturday Supercade, which I loved. Saturday Supercade, Incredible Hulk, Mr. T, Dragon's Lair, Mighty Orbots, which is still one of my favorite theme songs. We're gonna play that going out into the next break here. It was like Captain Planet and James Bond Jr. in the 90s. Some of these are just so esoteric. Like you wouldn't think James Bond Jr., whoever came up with that, it was brilliant because the cartoon went on. It had its own comic book series. And that's one of the great things about these 80s cartoons is they had the toy line and the comic book series that came right out with them to help marketing. It was marketing genius.
Oh yeah, that's the 80s and 90s, man. You get a toy, you get a cartoon show, boom, it's out there.
Exactly right. And I know Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Warriors, created by Larry Hama. That's such a fun thing, and I know that's one of the things that's near and dear to Larry's heart. He's going to check. He's stepping away, folks. For those of you who are just listening on the stream, he's going to grab a toy, I'm assuming.
No. It's getting dark.
You turned the light on. Okay, I thought you were going to show me like some Bucky O'Hare sculpt that you still had or something like that.
Oh, I got one of these. That's one of the comic books I did.
The Secret Liquid of Life.
Let's see. Yes. Yeah. I did about, let's see, I think I did about 10 of these things, 10 or 12. So I got lots of them here. You know, this
the
stuff
Battle
here.
of Roboto, yes. And those are coming back now. I know Mattel is releasing the brand new updated ones, and they still have the mini comics with them, which is great.
Oh, they do? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool.
I didn't look closely. I'm not sure if they're the new mini comics or if they're the originals. They're repackaging with kind of the original sculpts, but they're in, if you can ever find them, they're supposedly at Target and Walmart, but I've not seen very many of them at all. But a lot of that stuff, and I love talking about the old stuff being new again. One of the things that was brilliant, Community was such a great show. And they had that episode G.I. Jeff, which was great because you're the storyboard artist and you wrote an episode of G.I. Joe, and they have you come back and do the storyboards for that. How much fun was that to kind of revisit that genre?
I couldn't believe they were going to do that, but when I read their script, I went, "Hey, this is fun." So they told me to redesign the opening as if the G.I. Joe never stopped being made. So it's like that. I created another G.I. Joe opening based upon the earlier ones I had done. It was fun. I mean, they got us to do, I think I did part of Act 1. Shannon Denton did a part of Act 2, I think. So it was a lot of fun. And a lot of great artists that were working at the studio that I was, Starburns Industries over in, I think it's Burbank. Anyway, yeah. And they were really fond of the old show. And they brought in myself and another artist, Russ Heath. The guy, he actually did the original model sheets. They brought us both in to work on the show. So they tried to pull in all the people who were part of the original cast. So it was fun. I like what they did. They really wanted to make it authentic.
Yeah, they did too. That's a great episode. There's a whole lot more to talk about. We're chatting this hour with Larry Houston. If you'd like to call in and say hello, 314-931-5877 is the hotline. You can also text a question if you want to say hello. You can text it to 84126. Just say, your name first, James from St. Louis, and here's my question. We're going to take another quick commercial break. We're going to come right back chatting for the rest of this hour with Larry Houston, so please stand by.
Oh, let me get something.
I build a Dodge. I build a Dodge. Task Force 57 Chevrolet trucks are here. Task Force 57 Chevrolet. Hands of the Alcan run.
There's a road that lies under northern skies toward the land of the midnight sun. It crosses the crest of the great Northwest, and it's known as the Alcan Run. And from Dawson's Creek with a task force fleet of the 57 line, we blaze the way for Chevrolet to conquer the Alcan grind. Our engines were sealed, our tanks were sealed, for once we were underway, every mile of that ride would be certified by the seal of the AAA. Cameo Carrier 57. One-ton panel 57. Dump body tandem axle. Van panel body low cab forward. 5-speed transmission tractor trailer. Tractor trailer Powermatic. The truck of the TAS.
Yo, Joe!
Hi, this is Mary McDonald Lewis, and I was the voice of Lady J on G.I. Joe.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner. I'm the voice of Flint on G.I. Joe. And listening to Geek To Me Radio is half the battle.
G.I. Joe against Cobra, the enemy, fighting to save the day.
I thought that would be an appropriate return liner since we just got done talking about G.I. Joe and G.I. Jeff, the episode of Community, where they featured that. Talking with Larry Houston this hour, I want to make sure we mention our premier movie sponsor, which is Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. Another thing I missed besides conventions during the pandemic was, of course, movies. And Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern are making it safe to go back to the movies. They've got social distancing in place. You have to wear your masks. You can, order your concessions on the app, the Marcus Theaters app, and you can have the concessions ready for you when you arrive to see your movie for a more contactless experience. If you really want to go all out, get a private cinema. It's like $99. You get a private cinema for you and 20 of your friends. Go see Raya and the Last Dragon or Kong versus Godzilla. Nobody is out now in theaters. Nobody in the movie. It's not that nobody's out because people are out. But I'm going into who's on first thing here. Marcus Theaters and MovieTavern.com is the website. Make sure you order your tickets there online. Save yourself some time. And it's the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. Talking the rest of this hour still with Larry Houston. One of the cartoons you worked on, it's a director, if I'm not mistaken, the Karate Kid cartoon. Short-lived, only one season. But I keep wondering if they're going to have that cartoon come back in some respect, since we've already got Cobra Kai, which is doing gangbusters online and on now on Netflix. Has there been any talk about reviving the Karate Kid cartoon series?
I wish there was. It was Karate Kid was like it was like one of those series where I put in my best foot forward, and we had good ratings in the beginning, but it kind of petered off. That was. I did the intro for that also. That was like my other experience at doing intros to cartoon shows, and I enjoyed it immensely. It was a great experience for me, and the thing though was that was in comparison to the synergy between myself and the story editors of the X-Men, the synergy of myself and the Karate Kid. We weren't that close in sync. I wanted to push it more like, I don't know if you know Lupin from Cagliostro's Castle, or it's a high adventure show similar to Karate Kid, and I wanted to push it in that direction. That's why if you look at the intro, I wanted to go for high adventure, and they wanted to do something different. So, but I did my best to make it. This is a model sheet since you mentioned it.
Oh, how cool!
That's one of the model sheets from Karate Kid.
Wow. And I know on your website, you've got a lot of these cells, I know from X-Men for sale. Are these like that one you just showed me? Is that one from your personal collection? Or if people want to do you have duplicates of those? Or is it just the X-Men one? And I should mention the website, Larry-Houston, spelled just like the city.com. You can check out more about Larry. But is it just the X-Men one that kind of is selling right now?
Now on the site, it's just basically X-Men that I created. The things like here, like Karate Kid, that's from my personal collection.
Gotcha.
So I haven't put it up there for. I have not made prints of it yet. X-Men and G.I. Joe have been the two series that I get the most questions or requests for. So I just do those. The other show that I did about 118 episodes was Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
I did a whole bunch of those. And I was listening to one of the music that you had there. You had Mighty Orbots.
Yes, I love that show.
Yeah, because I worked on that show too. That was a lot of fun to work on that show.
Yeah, I tried to pick out for the music when we go out to commercial. I tried to pick out ones that you've worked on, and someone literally like last week, someone said, "What's an '80s cartoon that you feel nobody knows?" I'm like, nobody. Every time I bring up Mighty Orbots, everyone's like, "What's that?" But it was in that vein of the combiners, like the Voltron and the Transformers that would have the Devastator and everything. It was in that vein where the robots would join together, and I loved that cartoon. I was so bummed that we didn't get more of it.
Yeah. That company had its own political reasons why it only lasted one season. But I had a lot of fun working on it. As an example, in one of the scripts for Orbots, the writer wrote the scene opens with the characters playing chess, and I opened the Act 1. I get a chance to draw the first images, and I read that and went, this is boring. You don't open an action show on people playing chess. So on my own, without permission, I started the scene like you're rushing through a pipe, and then you're in outer space, and then you see these two robots animating to scene. They're beating the crap out of each other with lasers and maces and stuff like that. And it goes on for about 20 seconds, maybe at most. Then when you pull back, you find out that these are characters, animated characters on top of a chessboard.
Oh.
So I kind of kept what the writer wanted, but I made it a lot more interesting than what the writer had written. You know, another artist probably would have just done a chessboard. You know, it'd be boring. And fast forward about 6 months later, the director of that episode met me in the hallway and he asked me, "Are you the one who did that chess game?" And I went, yeah. And he took out his hand and he shook my hand and said, "Thank you. You made the episode a lot more interesting."
Good. See, it's one of those things you go with your gut instinct, and obviously it paid off. That's great. I think we froze again.
Out in New York.
Here we go.
And yeah, the other place. I guess you're missing me. Yeah, I tried to do my gut instincts on some other boards, and you know they didn't like it. So you know, you never know. But I have to go with what I feel is the best for what I'm working on. I gotta do. You know, if it means changing the script but making it better, I have to go in that direction. So. It's a lot better if I'm in charge, because then I know what all I got to please is me, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can approve whatever it is you've done on the storyboard. So that's always helpful when you're wearing multiple hats on a project.
Yeah, that's how I got all those cameos or Easter eggs into the X-Men. Is that the first time I asked permission, they said no. So after that, I didn't ask permission. I just put them in.
Yeah, it was great. You snuck in like War Machine in that one episode, and when all the X-Men's kind of panning through, you see Spider-Man's hand, War Machine's there, and a couple other ones. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I added those things, but I added all those Easter eggs in. But it's going to sound strange, but the system I found was that when I added those characters in, I never called them what they were. I never said this is Spider-Man's head. I never said that was War Machine. I gave them totally different names, and it just went through the system without a problem. But if my mistake for the first time was saying this is Spider-Man. They said, no, you can't do Spider-Man. You know, so after that I said, okay, fine. I'll do it another way.
And I assume problems like that would be easier to deal with now, because now that just about every property is back under the Marvel Disney umbrella, where before I think Saban owned Spider-Man, Sony and Saban. You had Fox had the X-Men, so it was, I guess, much harder then. I assume it would be easier now.
It should be. Back then, you know, yeah, Marvel didn't want to give Saban rights they didn't negotiate. So I know that's part of the problem. Even though Saban was in charge of Spider-Man, they were in charge of Power Rangers, they were in charge of X-Men. But contractually, I guess there's some reason why they didn't want to do that. But you know, as long as I didn't call, you know, the Thor or Doctor Strange, I called it Mutant Magician or something like that. They had no problem with it.
And we had Alan Burnett on the show back in January. He was talking about Ozzy and Drix as one of his favorites that he doesn't feel gets enough love. And you worked on that one as well.
Yes.
There's so many projects you've worked on as well. Avengers United They Stand, which I feel doesn't get enough love, but that was a great little toy line they had out for that again. But you've worked on the Batman the Animated Series, Static Shock, X-Men Evolution we mentioned, Captain Planet. Do you have, out of all the projects you've worked on, is there any way you could say this is my favorite one, either because you directed most of it or you feel like a more attachment to the art because you storyboarded it, anything like that?
I you know, the two it will be two series that I think I feel is my favorite. One is the X-Men. The other one is believe it or not is Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, because on that series I was given control like exactly like what I had on the X-Men, and myself and my co-director Davis Doy, we were given the task of doing 26 new episodes. He took 13, I took 13, and we kind of like were given all the reins of production, including hiring the writers, having writer meetings with the writers, so we knew exactly what we were going to get. We actually could approve everything. We were like really the people in charge of everything. So, yeah, X-Men and Real Adventures of Johnny Quest were the two at the top of my list of places that I've worked on and series that I've been able to influence in the best possible way.
And talking about X-Men the Animated Series being one of your favorites, right now I've got a copy. If you're watching this on the video, I've got a copy here of Previously on X-Men. This book tells a lot of the stuff that Larry's been talking about, from Eric Lewald and Julia Lewald, about all the details behind it. I'm going to give away a copy of that book. If you want to text the answer to this question, you can text it to 84126. Make sure to put your name, so like James from St. Louis, and your answer to this question. Night of the Sentinels, we had part 1 and part 2. Morph dies in that. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the series from 30 years ago. Originally, Larry has said in other interviews, that was supposed to be a different character, but they didn't use him. Originally, the original X-Man who died, Dave Cockerman, Len Wein from the comic books. If you can tell me who that character was in the comic books that died on the new X-Men's first mission, text it to us at 84126. I will send you a copy of Previously on X-Men if you get the answer to that question right. You can, once again, text that to 84126. If you have any questions for Larry, feel free to call in as well. Larry, I'm going to take one more commercial break. You're okay to stay with me for the rest of the hour, yeah?
Yes.
All right, perfect. We are going to take our next commercial break. We're going to come right back and chat more with Larry Houston. Please stand by.
A great new champ in every weight, the mighty six, a great new eight. No other truck so up to date as Chevrolet, the champion of them all.
Fighting dust, fighting time on that long northern climb. Alone against all nature's might, these trucks made by Chevy, light, medium, heavy, roared into the wilderness night. The lightning flashed, the hailstorm crashed, the rain turned the road to paste. We drove our band through that washed-out land up into the Yukon waste.
The night is gone and here's the dawn, the motor's humming clear and strong. The great new champs are pushing on for Chevrolet, the champion of them all.
So we made our push through the Arctic bush on that ribbon of mountainous road, and we held our stride on that rugged ride in spite of the heavy load. Our matic transmission locked in position, no shifting from drive to low, proving by test that Chevy is best wherever a truck can go.
We've got the power beneath the hood to set the pace no other could. We're out to tame the great Dogwood for Chevrolet, the champion of them all.
There were rivers to span with our caravan, and the valleys were wide and deep. Though the way
5/11/95.
Hi, this is Alan Oppenheimer, the voice of Skeletor, and you're listening to Geek To Me.
The voice of Skeletor from Filmation Studios, where Larry got his start. We're chatting this hour with Larry Houston. Just all the different stuff he's worked on. Director, writer, producer, and of course, storyboard artist on a lot of these projects. Going back to the Filmation days, you got to draw some of those comic books. What was, I guess, was there a learning curve? Did you already have, you said you took the test, failed a couple times, but you got in there. Was that where you feel like you learned the most about storyboarding an artist, or did that come at a later time for you?
At that time, I got to learn the system of what is expected of you when you're in an animation studio. I mean, because you're working with artists that are equal to you in every way, and so I got a chance to see, coming from computers, everybody was computer geek, but now I'm working with artists, and it's like I'm drawing and I look at their drawing going, wow, that's great. Oh, look at that one. Oh man, everybody's here is extremely talented.
I think we just froze.
Other people have done and what's expected in production. I took some of their boards to learn the system that Filmation had, because it wasn't part of the system they had was a system called the stock system, which was a lot of reuse of animation.
Right.
And so you had to, that's how they were able to keep the costs down and keep the work here in the States as long as possible. So instead of just drawing brand new setups, you had to be creative in creating scenes that could be reused within the show to cut down the cost of the overall show. And so that was a learning curve for me of learning the stock system.
Hmm.
And it was good discipline. It was a good discipline to learn. But when I left Filmation to go work for Marvel Productions, it was the opposite. It was like I was working on a show. Not the very first show was not Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but it was syndicated Spider-Man, and they were doing they needed 26 more episodes, and the director was Art Vitello. I got hired by Art to do to work on the last 13 that they had. And his thing was like, there's no stock system, just draw it. And it was like, it was kind of a shock to my system after learning the Filmation system, where you couldn't be innovative. In this one, you could just do anything you want, just tell the story. And that kind of, got me out of that stock system and brought back my comic book imagination to creating the storytelling. But the discipline of learning Filmation, we used to say, if you can learn a storyboard of Filmation, you can work anywhere. And that's true, because once you learn the discipline and now you got the freedom, you could balance it too in your mind when you're working on a show. And so it was, Filmation's training was really valuable for me to become a better storyboard artist over the years.
And we played the Cops theme music as we went out to that last break. That's another one of those great, the toy series and that cartoon. I love that cartoon, Silverhawks. And those, like I said, the 80s for me was the best time to be watching cartoons. But of all those cartoons, we had like Cops and Gem. You mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the real Ghostbusters. Did you have, of those, the storyboards? Obviously, it's you doing the art on some of these storyboards, but obviously the art kind of has to look different on Real Ghostbusters as it did on Challenge of the Super Friends, as it did on Gem. What was it like shifting styles for you as an artist?
For me, as long as the characters had basic human anatomy, it wasn't a problem. It's when there are times when I had to shift from human anatomy to the turtles. That was like, okay,
right.
It's not the typical, 8 heads high and all that other kind of stuff. No, this is cartoon proportions. So that was like a switch. When I got to try April or one of the other human characters, like, oh, okay, I can do that real fast. I can set up the shot real easy. The shifting back and forth took a little adjustment, but once you got into it, it's like, okay, I got it now. But most of like Ghostbusters and the rest of the shows, as long as they were human anatomy, human proportions, it wasn't a problem shifting the style, because one of the things you have to be as a storyboard artist in the animation is that you have to be able to mimic the different shows. And you
right. Yeah. Oh, I think we froze again. Trying to connect.
Did you get me back?
Yeah, there you are. I heard you say you have to mimic the different shows. That's where you froze.
Okay. Yeah, you have to mimic the different styles of the show, and that's part of being in our business. And so you have to have that versatility and being able to, draw something that looks like a Disney style and then move over to a Ghostbuster style, to moving over to an X-Men style. But as long as the proportions are good, you're good to go,
In one of the ones you directed on the Fantastic Four animated series, there was, I noticed, because I've got the collection on DVD, there was a noted difference between, I think the second season had a new intro, kind of, it felt like a different tone. What was the reason for the big shift? Because I've heard a couple different answers, but I've never gotten the straight one, and you're the guy to ask.
Let me back up a second. I was hired away from the X-Men by Marvel, away from the X-Men, to do the second season of Fantastic Four, because, what they told me was that the syndication, the people who were doing the syndication did not like the way it was going, the season 1, and they wanted to do a season 2 they wanted me to bring what I did on the X-Men to the Fantastic Four. So my thing was like, I told them, look, I want to do the classic stories. I want to do the classic look. I'm not going to leave the X-Men without that kind of guarantee, which they gave it to me. And I also asked for autonomy. So those 3 things they said yes to. And that's when I scooted over to the Fantastic Four to work on that show, because I'm a fan of the classic stories of the 60s and 70s, basically the Silver Age. And, you know, otherwise I was going to stay on the X-Men for year 5. But that's why there was a big change. They told me that they wanted me to bring that, what I had, you know, the X-Men onto the FF. And I just said, oh, yeah, I'll do that if you can give me 1, 2, and 3. And they said, yes, yes, yes. And they gave me some more money. So it's like,
that's
everything worked out fine, you know?
Right, exactly. More money is always good. We're rapidly approaching the end of the hour. Larry, I feel like I've got 30 more questions I could ask you. So we're going to have you back if you're game for it at some point.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Perfect.
And I found some, you were talking about my website with the prints.
Yeah.
Like on the website, so I don't know if you can see any of this stuff.
Oh, yes.
But I create prints from the animated show that, you know, I basically, I sign.
Beast.
Yeah, I sign autographs for this is what I would do at some of the conventions. I would just bring some of these things where people can see them and buy them.
And so we want to mention the website too. Again, it's Larry-Houston. There's a gorgeous Phoenix print that can be yours right there. And then you can have Larry sign that. He'll send it to you lovingly packaged, I'm sure. There's Dark Phoenix for those of you who like a bad girl. Yep. Larry-Houston. And again, we didn't get an answer to the trivia question, but we will try that again later on. Larry Houston, it's been an absolute delight to speak with you. You can catch him on Twitter at X-Men Director as well. You're very active on Twitter, so we look forward to hearing more from you. And like I said, we'll have to have you on the show again if you're up for it.
Okay, we'll do. And also let your fans know that sometime in the future, there's something called Planet Size X-Men, and Marvel hired me to do a variant cover, so that's coming out in the future sometime. I don't know when.
Perfect. We'll look for that on upcoming New Comic Book Day. Larry Houston, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Nice you invite. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Glad to have you. And remember, you can catch the website, geektomeradio.com. Go there. You can see the archives of our previous interviews with all the other people we've mentioned. And this will be up on the website in the coming days. If you're hearing this online, thank you very much. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you love Scotty Young arts. It's not in the way you play Mario Karts. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek To Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek To Me Radio.
Traffic report. Thank you, Charles Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Good night.
The Big 550.